Hey everyone, welcome to Limitless Radiocast, episode 101. Chad and I have the great honor to hang out with one of our own today, Mr. Matt Craddock. He is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt at East Coast Martial Arts. Chad has had him from the very beginning as a white belt, so we get into some great conversations of that. Matt is also a fire captain by day, and we talk about some fire stories. So you guys just throw those headphones on, turn that volume up, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hey everyone, this show is also being brought to you by Gateway Dental Care, 13 Emeralds Tattoo Company located in Canton, Ohio, Warpath 55 located in Massillon, Ohio, Lanky Fight Gear, OldBonesTherapy.com, 28bands.com, BJJ Foundation, Lastly Nutrition, Battle Bomb Cream, Thomas Webb of D. Hoff Realtors, Candry Law LLC, Magic City Brewing Company, M&H Beans Coffee Company, Ronald E. Butler Tax and Accounting LLC, Limitless Tape. Listen guys, these are our sponsors and they help us tremendously each and every week do this show, so we ask you guys to support them as much as they support us. Now enjoy the show. What's up everybody, welcome to the show. Hope everyone out there is doing well. So this week Chad and I are back and we have an amazing guest. He is one of our own Team East Coast Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, Matt Craddock. He is also, I'm just gonna say it this way, he's a captain in a fire department, Matt. All right. By day and a savage by night on the mat. He's been with Chad, and this is actually awesome because he is Chad's very first promotion to black belt from start to finish. He's an awesome husband, father. He's a great man to the community. He does a lot of things for us. He's done a lot for me. It's such a great honor to hang out with you, Matt, and talk to you, man. So we appreciate it very much. Thank you for being with us.
Oh, this is my honor, man. I appreciate you guys inviting me on.
It's always fun to talk to people, especially when you have a little bit of a relationship with someone before when you start, to do a podcast. It's like, well, I don't really know this person. Well, I kind of know this person a little bit. I've been passed 9 million times by a double just grab knee through the legs, and Matt sits on me and I'm like, what that crap? It's the easiest pass in the world. I'm like, I know that now.
I'm gonna like this. If this is full compliments, I'm good. Yeah. No, that's one of the things too, is that homegrown thing. The bearded wonder there has put every piece of tape and every belt on me from day one. And that just, for me, that means a lot. It's like the very first one that came into East Coast and East Coast specifically, and made it all the way from a struggling white belt all the way to a struggling black belt.
Yeah. Do you remember your first day walking in to East Coast?
Oh, absolutely. I was 39. I walked in, had no idea. So when I got on the SWAT team, I had noticed that those guys were able to, take people down and control them and stuff. So one of the guys that I worked with, Dom Van Ness, was on the team, and I knew he trained. So I asked him, where should I go train? And he said, go to East Coast. So I went, didn't know anything about it. I did some Taekwondo as a kid. And they put me with, he had to have been like a 300-pound 15-year-old the very first night. He didn't know what he was doing. They stuck us in a corner and kind of worked with us a little bit. And it was overwhelming, to say the least. 39 years old, walking into something brand new.
Sure.
Already way too old at that point to start something. And the fact that I went back for a second night was amazing. And I'm glad that I did, because here we are 14 years later.
Which is amazing. Chad, what were you going to say?
No,
you sound like you're going to say something.
No, it's crazy. Matt's one of few left that can see how far we've come from that first gym.
Right.
We've come a long way, man. And like you said, like that kid didn't know what he was doing, but man, most of us didn't know what we were doing then.
Right.
Looking back, it's like, man, when, I was teaching guys as like was I a blue belt when you started? Was I still
blue belt? Yeah. And I mean, that was kind of typical because with the gyms around the area, nobody had black belts. I mean,
no, sure.
Who was Charles Allen?
Yeah.
From Maryland. So
yeah. Just to see how far it's come is mind blowing sometimes, to sit back in one of our classes and see like there's 38, 40 people on the mats right now, and me and, Mike Broom, me and him talked the other day, and we still joke like back when he was teaching, 10 people was like, holy crap, how am I going to do this?
Right.
How am I going to teach 10 people jujitsu?
Yeah, it's come a long way.
Yeah.
From the little gym that was there by Fiddlesticks to the massive amount of mat space we have now.
Yeah.
Oh, so that was the plaza you guys were in. Was that the very first?
Well, that was the first one we were both at, but
Okay, because then it went from there the other direction
To
close
Mhm.
to Fulton,
Yeah.
and then from Fulton up to where we are now.
Yeah, we've always been on Fulton somewhere.
I was going to say that's interesting too to think about
Yeah.
it back. Like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, we've always been on the same road, just different.
And it's
locations.
crazy because every gym we leave ends up vacated since we left it.
Forever, yes.
Yeah,
forever.
and that one in Fiddlestick still says karate
It's still-
above the window,
yeah.
and it's still
Yeah.
vacated. Yeah,
Yeah.
And the one that's down here on Fulton Pike, yeah, it's empty too.
Yeah.
There's nothing in
that one makes me smile to see it empty all the time. It really
Me
does.
too. Yeah.
there.
That's it. That's karma. That's
Yeah.
karma for sure.
Absolutely.
So
That's awesome. Shoot, I was going to ask you something. I can't remember what it was now. Oh, Ian, I didn't mention this, and I should have. Chad didn't help me, so I'm blaming him. Matt is also our C4C instructor for. Chad, you got to explain this better than me. Go
for
ahead.
the police jiu-jitsu program that we have. Yeah. Yeah.
With
Matt
Chad
was
Lyman. Yeah.
Which yeah,
with Chad Lyman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So about what, a year ago, Matt, we affiliated with them. I think this is our second year, I guess you
Yeah,
would
this is
say.
our second year with them. Yeah.
Yeah. So Chad Lyman has put together that C4C police curriculum that Matt and Brian Carbinia helps with that too and teaches. So Matt got certified last year as a level 4,
Level
right?
4, yeah.
Level 4. So we sent him to the training up in Cleveland. It was a level 1 certification, and he came back with a level 4, which is really cool. And I think it tops out at 5.
Yeah.
Right.
So it runs along the belt line. So white, blue, purple, brown, black, and that's your level 1,
Okay.
2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. Gotcha. So you could maybe, when we see Lyman, maybe get your level 5. Maybe.
Yeah, well, he said what that entails is an entire week of just getting the hell beat out of you.
Oh, does it? Well,
That's all it is.
Great.
Yeah, but no, we do
Fantastic.
that every Tuesday at 11:30, and it started out kind of slow. The people that we're training with, there's a cops that already train at jiu-jitsu, so they came in and they already had kind of like a leg up on everything. But Sean Gribble, one of our cops, actually convinced a bunch of his people to come in and start training with us. We're up to about 14 now on a good day.
yeah.
Nice. That's awesome.
And it's great because cops are probably one of the least trained professions out there. They usually do like a week long in service, and then the rest of it is kind of dependent upon them and what they want to put into it. So these people that came in and are training with us now, we have 5 women that came in with that group, and they are just loving it because this is that whole course, that PJJ thing. It's jiu-jitsu, but it's actually designed for cops, because it's one thing I told them. It's like, I never want to see a highlight reel where you're doing an arm bar on somebody.
Yeah.
The whole idea, right? Because
no heel hooks allowed.
It's not street worthy. Yeah.
Right.
So it's one of those things where you control somebody, but you're able to get off of them pretty quickly as well. So you can disengage, get to your tools and things like that if you need to. So we don't necessarily want them tying up with somebody on the ground to where they're committed, because you always got to worry about that second threat. So being able to control somebody until assistance gets there. And then that's the other thing that we're noticing as well. Billy Lott and Chris Bessie are a couple of the cops that train with us. And we've told them, you're training, your partners aren't. So what you're going to end up having to deal with is you're actually controlling somebody, and they're going to come in and just jump on the pile. So you've really got to tell your officers that don't train what to do as they're approaching you. And those guys have both ran into that situation a couple of times.
Okay.
Because they just jump on the pile and it all just goes to hell. So
yeah, that's like complete chaos. So you guys train in that situation though, right? Like you put the guys in the gym, the guys and gals in the gym in scenarios like that in the C4C or program, in order to get that feeling, to understand like it's not just training, there's other things that can happen as well, correct?
Right.
Yeah, okay. I thought
so. Yeah, and then I continually preach jiu-jitsu with them as well. Not so much for the techniques and everything, which is going to benefit them, but just that experience of feeling a grown adult coming to you 100%, and you get to feel what that feels like. It shouldn't be on the job the first time you feel that.
Sure.
So, because it can be overwhelming if you're not used to it, and you think, hey, I'm a good fighter, until you get into a fight.
Sure.
So getting into the gym and feeling that, and that's the whole thing with jiu-jitsu in general, is being comfortable, being uncomfortable. So get yourself into those positions where okay, I can get out of this. This is what this feels like. So just getting those repetitions. So I do. I preach jujitsu to them all the time, but at the same time, I'm thrilled that they're coming in and doing the training that they're doing, because a lot of cops just aren't getting that.
Sure. You know, and we've talked about it, and Matt, you've listened to the show many times, and we've had a lot of great people that have talked about, you know, where jujitsu is going, and it needs to be implemented into the all first responders, from everyone, you know, from police to fire to everyone. It's encouraged, obviously, to do it. In your time, so you've been a fireman for what, 30 years now, right?
Yeah.
Have you seen a growth in it? Are you starting to see a growth in it now, even more that you're, I don't say involved, because you've been involved since you stepped on the mat at 39 years old. But are you seeing it more in the community, in your community, let's say?
A lot more than I did when we first started.
Sure. Okay.
So like just at Green Fire alone, we have mats at Station 1 and Station 3. I have 10 people total at Green Fire that train. Two of them train over at Waterhouse, and then the other 8 train with us.
Okay.
There are a bunch of like Coventry firefighters, Cuyahoga Falls firefighters. There are like Nate Buckor that used to train with us. There's a bunch of Summit County deputies that are training now. So yeah, you see it more so now, especially than when we first started.
Yeah.
So it's becoming a little bit more commonplace. And I think especially with some of the law enforcement officers or LEOs I see, they're starting to realize how beneficial it actually is for them.
Sure.
So yeah, you're seeing a lot more of them getting on the mats. Like next Saturday, the police and fire games.
Right. Yep.
We generally get a really good turnout for that, and a lot of those are cops. And so yeah, it's really nice to see.
I think we have about 20 signed up for that right now. The last they've been trying to keep, because I don't do any of the registration for that. They do all that, but they've been trying to keep me in the loop. So I know Shiloh just signed up too, so hopefully she'll get some matches.
Good. Yeah. When I first competed in police and fire games, there was 5 of us.
Wow.
So, yeah. And then the one year, Chad, we had like 32, I think it was.
We had a big one. I was before. Was it the year before COVID? Maybe, because I'm trying to think.
Is that when Jay came in? Wadsworth? Is that when Jay Wadsworth came in? And
I believe so.
It might have been. It might have been. Yeah, that was a pretty big one, because the first one I helped at was at Victory, and I think 2017. The one they asked me to help ref it and put some rules together and stuff, and then we moved it to East Coast for a little more space, and we've been just trying to grow it every year. And my big thing, so they used to have it Wednesdays at like 1:00 or like,
it was horrible.
It was terrible. And like every year I'm like, guys, I will help you as much as I can, but this needs to be on a weekend to try to pump it up. So, but
they open the command post early now, don't they, for that?
I think so.
I thought they opened it up early just so we could do it the Saturday before the entire event kicks off.
I think that's the way we used to.
Nice. Okay.
It used to be at the end of the week, right? And now it's the kickoff. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So very cool. And definitely throwing it on a weekend, you get a lot more people able to participate on it. So that's definitely pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. And I was telling guys this week, it's as hard as it is to get officers to train jiu-jitsu, getting them to compete is even harder, right?
Oh yeah.
So
they're afraid to get hurt. I think they're part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's no like, oh, well, that was on your time. You were training on your time. You got hurt. So you have to take your own kind of time off. Like, it's not like allotted to you to have that injury. Like, hey, you're injured.
Well, one of the fun things about the police and fire games is it's a bunch of like-minded individuals that just want to come.
Yeah. Sure.
I mean, really, you don't have that Abu Dhabi gold guy,
Right. Yeah.
And tear the thing up. So it works out pretty nicely.
Yeah.
The one thing I've noticed in my short period of time, obviously being involved with jiu-jitsu and getting the opportunity and blessed to talk to a lot of people like yourself, Matt, is that is, back to the community, the LEO community, the fire. I will say the LEO community is probably more egotistical about not training versus like yourself, like a fireman or EMT or a different type of first responder. It seems like that has changed more, like that is getting ingrained, and there's been more advocacy for it to encourage LEOs to get into it. Like, 100%. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying like they're not capable of doing it. It's just, Chad and I joke about the little thing that we did here locally, and we had a lot of local police officers, and there was one that was like, oh, I'm too old to do that, and that's why I carry one of these, and it was like, it was right to his, I think it was to his gun or his baton. I can't remember.
It was his baton.
He shoots one time a year. Yeah.
Well, that too. Yeah.
Right. And but what I've heard, and obviously being around guys like yourself, is is that that's changing, which I love to hear, because obviously we're such an advocate for this sport, this defense, whatever we want to call it, to be in our community in the jiu-jitsu world, that it's like, you're great at what you're doing already, but just add this little thing to it. You know what I mean? Like,
I think that's, and Matt, you can probably back me up or comment on this. I think LEO, fire, whatever your avenue is, it has to come from the top down, right?
Yeah.
If your head guy, Matt's the captain, if he doesn't believe in jiu-jitsu, who else is going to? Your guys aren't going to believe in it.
Well, look at Marietta, Georgia. That's a perfect example.
There you go.
The police chief was a jiu-jitsu practitioner.
Yep.
He put all of his people through jiu-jitsu. They have to go until they at least get their blue belt.
Yeah.
Right.
So you need,
and that's a requirement for them now.
Yeah, it's a requirement for them.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because like their use of force numbers went way down. The workers' comp injury numbers went way down. Because they practice a lot of verbal jiu-jitsu also to try to de-escalate things. And then when they do escalate things, because they're used to handling human beings, there's not as many injuries or anything. That's the biggest part with cops or firemen, whomever you want to throw into that bag. You don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
So they go into work every day thinking that they know how to fight, that they can protect themselves, and then they get that D1 wrestler. Right. They have no idea what to do with it.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you just don't know what you don't know. So the more we can get out there and kind of advocate for it and get those guys in there, that's like when Chad and Graham did that whole grappling for guardians thing.
Right.
That's an amazing program. Put however many cops, however much money's raised, you put a cop through jiu-jitsu for a year for free.
Yeah.
That's an amazing program that has kind of worked. I mean, we got a couple people that got that and are still training, and a couple people that got it and just really flaked out and never showed up.
Sure.
So just
and you're probably going to have that, right? It's very similar to having any kind of practitioner like walks away from it like completely, even if they're not LEO or firemen or anything in those avenues, as Chad said. The cool thing is like you being a captain, so you're an advocate, so you're a top up down. You can speak to the value of jiu-jitsu, obviously, and you have. And we have had guests on the show, and we've talked about that. Like, that's probably the biggest change that's going to have to happen in every state here in the United States, is that they're going to have people who actually advocate it, that are high within whatever system, to be able to speak down the chain, not just up the chain, but to be able to be that advocate person to go, no, this really works, and this is where I'm at, and look, we need to do this and fight for it there. But it's not going to, like, someone's fresh in, or I don't want to label anybody like a rookie or whatever. It's not going to work. Like, oh, that's what you do? Cool. Well, this is what I do. And I carry this and this, and I don't need to go train and do that. You know what I mean? Like,
it's what's funny is, so like, there's three of us. Matt, one of our guys that trains at Waterhouse, he's a lieutenant, and then Mike Moore is a captain with me, and he trains with us. So we're constantly chirping at people. But the ones, because I tried to get Mike there for years, and then he finally got in, and that guy's just hooked now.
Yeah,
it's just getting him in the door. But like with Shiloh and Nuggy and Hoos and all those guys that I brought with me, I was like, hey, you guys got to come try this, and they literally showed up like the next day. So the younger kids, you're going to see more people come into it with the younger people. It's going to be the older ones. It's going to be hard to get in there.
Yeah. Feeling fit, strong, young, agile, versus being older and going, I don't want to do that now in my career. I've been doing this for 20 years. I don't want to go get I'm going to say get beat up, but I'm not going to lie to anyone out there listening either. Like, there's going to be days where you're like, crap.
Oh no, if I wake up and I don't hurt, something's wrong. So so now, but then the other thing is, it's like, well, I got to get in shape before I come. It's like, that's the worst. You got to be smart before you go to school. It's get in there, and that's how you get into shape. It's like cardio. I tell people, you can run 10 miles a day, but you do a 5-minute round, you're going to be gassed. It's just a total different type of cardio. And the only way you get good at it is by rolling. That's it.
I tell people all the time. I spent 10 years long distance running before I started jiu-jitsu. I walked on the mat, 42 years old? I get this wrong every time, Chad. 42.
I think you're right this time.
I'm right this time. I should write it down because I always do that. But I did 10 miles, man. I was long distance runner, marathoner, runner, half marathons all the time. And when I started jujitsu, I was like, oh, my cardio is great. Like I could go, I could run 7-minute miles, no problem. And now like that, then I was like, I'm going to die. I
Right?
can't roll one time. And
I feel
it's
like
it's a different world.
I feel like jujitsu is one of the most specific cardios there is.
Oh, 100%.
Right? Like
Full
it's
body.
yeah. It's just so like I couldn't do the opposite of what Terry's saying. I don't know if I could go run a mile. You know, I probably could, but I don't want to either.
Right.
But it's just so much different than anything athletically that I've ever done, you know.
You can't recreate it either. You can't. Like now that I know and what I know, you know, obviously being with you guys as long as I've been, I tell people all the time, I'm like, there's nothing like it. Like you're using breathing, physical strength, ability, looseness, everything you can possibly do in your body, and you can't go to a gym without doing jujitsu and emulate that. You can't.
Right.
Can't do it. CrossFitters, I'm sorry, I love you guys, but you can't emulate jujitsu. You can't do it. I don't care how much pull-ups you're doing and then jumping down and doing, you know, power lifts or get-ups or whatever. It doesn't emulate jujitsu. Like do jujitsu and roll for, you know, a few rounds and you're like, oh my gosh, like that was the most physical thing I've ever done. And you guys can contest to it, obviously.
Fitness, that kind of workout that they do is close, but yeah, they're not burping out of a good side control or, you know,
right.
It's just a specific type of cardio that you definitely got to build up by being on the mat. Yeah.
Being in side control, having me down and Matt and I are about the same size. Matt's on top of me. I'm not like burping up. I'm not pressing him off because he's not going to let me. Like he knows how to use his body weight in order to keep me down. I have to work out of that. And that's the hardest thing you do. Like, you know what I mean? And then when you're done, you're like, I have to keep going. That was like 10 seconds. Like, wait a minute. I have to keep going. Like, right. You look at the clock and you're like, holy crap, that was only 10 seconds. Like, I'm going to die. Like, I can't keep doing this, you know? And obviously, as you guys stated, you keep rolling and you get better. And eventually then that doesn't happen anymore when you keep doing jujitsu, you know, like that feeling doesn't happen as much.
You never thought you would have to teach people to breathe or to learn to breathe, right? Because everybody wants to hold their breath for some reason.
That was one of the things too that, like, because I was strong coming in.
Yeah.
And the two things everybody complains about me is my posture and my grips. You know, like, oh my God, you're so strong. I've never heard you're so technical. And it hurts. It hurts so hard.
You're like, come on, man.
But when I first started, it was just that whole, you know, hold your breath and grunt and grab. And Hindman actually walked over to me one night with 2 tennis balls.
Yeah.
He said, you're going to hold these while you roll. And I'm like,
you did a tennis ball thing. Awesome. Okay.
Oh yeah, because it took away my grip strength.
I've heard these stories, but I didn't know who all done them. I knew Brian Mueller has done the tennis ball thing. I did not know you did this. So, okay. This is awesome.
Yeah. That was one of my first lessons. He's like, quit holding your breath, quit being a chucklehead, and hold these tennis balls and quit using all strength. You're just, because like the first year, that's all you're doing is you're trying to survive and you're killing yourself by holding your breath and trying to muscle through everything. And it was probably one of the, you know, you can tell somebody something, and then when you show them something, it sticks. So when I was holding those and trying to roll, it clicked a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I still complain to Chad. I think every blue belt should get the same test that me and Aaron Mast got.
Forehead bleeding.
Oh yeah, they pulled us out. I mean, we had no idea we're getting promoted that night, and it was like everybody circled up. Show me 3 chokes from guard. Show me 3 sweeps from guard. Okay, show me this, show me that, yada, yada, yada. And then they Shark Tanked us for a half an hour. And every 3 minutes, it was somebody new. And I mean, he's got photos of me. I'm just beat red, bleeding from the head. But there's a lesson to that, because that Shark Tanking, it just seems like it's just miserable at the time. But what it does is it forces you to use technique, because you get so tired that you can't actually use your strength. So for me, because like I think blue belt is one of the largest promotions.
For sure.
Because you're going from, hey, I don't know anything, to, okay, I've kind of got the moves down. Okay, now you get to be blue belt. Now you got to perfect those and start working on them.
Yeah.
And a really solid black belt is just a guy that does all that stuff that you learned as a white belt extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's why I still give Chad shit about it because he had to do that for his brown belt test as well. And it was
Yeah.
just like, man, we should be putting these blue belts through hell. 100%. You know, I had to do it, damn it, you know, so.
Yeah, we could at least do a Shark Tank.
Yeah, I remember
You
when we
know?
Shark Tanked Alex before he left.
Oh yeah,
Went
before he
on-
left. Yeah.
Point
To
on.
let go.
Yeah, we did it to him and Randy before Randy left. We Shark Tanked
Yeah.
the crap out of him. You're right, man. It's different. And a Steve Hindman Shark Tank is way different than anybody's. I don't
and
care.
he was one of the last guys I had to roll with in the Shark Tank, and he just I preach this to this day whenever, you know, especially I get people my size, because Hyman was all about big guy jujitsu.
Yeah.
And it's like, don't do anything fast. If you're going to pass their guard, grind them out, just make them suffer. And by the time you get the pass, they should be like, oh, thank God you're here.
Absolutely.
Right,
yeah.
right. Like
He
I
was
want you
really
to pass.
big into that.
Yeah.
He wanted you to suffer whenever
Yeah.
he was doing something.
He also told everybody he weighed 195 pounds, which I don't believe.
No, maybe when he was in high school.
Right. Yeah.
That's what Mr. Hyman used to tell people.
Mhm.
Yeah. He felt like 305. He really did.
Yeah.
I don't know how he did it. It was amazing.
And I wish I would know because he was what, 6'2", probably.
Yeah, he's about my height. Yeah.
But his reach was like
It was ridiculous.
Big
like
wingspan,
like a 7-footer. I feel, you know, it was
long arms. Yeah.
Yeah, man, it was different to roll with. He gave you a different look for sure.
Nice.
And he really didn't do anything flashy or
Nothing.
fast.
No.
And it was miserable being underneath that man. It really was.
For sure. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's very cool. You brought up a great point, Matt. We've had many discussions of this, like what belt is hard or that transition. And I've been trying to tell people like, oh, like be an advocate, obviously, you have no friends unless they're jujitsu friends because no one else wants to hear you talk because that's all you talk about.
Right.
so it's like, oh, that's too hard, or I don't want to have to go through that. And I'm like, but the beat up part, like you always hear people talk about, like in the white belt, it's like, oh, I just got beat up and I tried to survive. But did you really get beat up? It's because you didn't know anything. Like no one's actually out there purposely like beating you up. It's because you didn't know anything. You're holding your breath. Like you're trying to figure out what you're doing. And like for me, I tell people now, it's like, yeah, man, like it was the hardest thing because I didn't think I was ever going to be good enough until when I got promoted to blue belt. Then I was like, oh, I actually know a little bit of what I'm doing and I'm okay. Like I'm comfortable and I can keep doing this.
Right.
And trying to advocate that or speak on that to people that haven't walked into a gym yet, or they're like, oh, I've been thinking about trying that. What's it like? I've been trying to like speak that way to them. Like, well, listen, man, it's going to suck for a while because you just don't know. And people are they know they're already there. So they're going to do things. They're going to work on their moves and you're not going to be able to really work on a whole lot.
Yeah, and that's where I feel like we talk atmosphere so much when we talk about East Coast, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because let's face it, the turnover in jiu-jitsu is huge, right? There's a lot of people that just don't stick with it. It's not for them, life, whatever. And it's a hard thing to, like Terry said, to walk in that door. But if we can make walking in the door fun, I think we can keep some people around a little longer, right?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's one of the, because I've got almost like a canned speech because I'm really big into approaching the new people when they come in and kind of having a conversation with them. And it's tap early, tap often. Nobody's going to think you're a sissy for tapping, but if you're that guy that comes in and refuses to tap, you're going to get that other, thought about you where guys are like, okay, this guy's just a chucklehead.
Yep.
The other thing is, as soon as you get submitted, you're going to get submitted a lot. The first words out of your mouth should be, okay, what did I do wrong? And how did you get that? Because that white belt experience, that's really where you're learning what to do, what not to do, and kind of starting to pick up how to catch things. And it's like, if you're getting submitted and you're not actually asking that person, how the hell did you do that? You're not taking advantage of the situation. That's the way that you learn.
Yeah, definitely. You're doing a disservice to yourself. Like if
I mean, I had guys coming through, like Chad, Pete for sure. Pete was always one of those guys with me that would help me out and kind of move me through. Same with Scarborough, Broom. There was a few that used to train with us. Those guys always kind of looked out for me and took care of me. So I kind of try to do that for other people now. Like I got Mike and I got you and you got like Jay Graham and the other guys. You're seeing them do that also.
Yep.
They're taking people under their wing. They're kind of helping them out. And that's what I love about East Coast. It's truly a decent atmosphere where you walk in and you don't have to worry about your first night, somebody just beating the hell out of you because you don't know anything. I always tell them it's like, that's when the 2-stripe white belt comes over and they want to teach you stuff.
Yeah.
It's that attitude there. It's not like, oh, fresh meat, we're going to kill you. It's
Right.
like, oh, right, I get to teach somebody something.
Yep.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a really good atmosphere that Hindman actually started, and you guys have carried on extremely well.
Yeah.
It's the best, man. I mean, it makes you want to come back because of who embraces you there. That was a big thing for me. And I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know what I was getting into. It was a challenge for me. It was like, this is something I always thought about. My wife was like, go do it then. And I was like, all right, cool. So I called Chad. A week later, I was there for class 1 to try it out and, fell in love with it. But the atmosphere, everyone was really cool and they accepted me. And yeah, I went through trials and tribulations like anybody would, but it was just like, they want me to be better. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Matt, you've taught me a ton of stuff, a ton of things. I've asked those questions like, crap, how'd you do that? And that was big for me too. Like, ask a lot of questions, man. Like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Swallow whatever ego pride you have and just ask and learn. And then you can eventually be better. And for instance, weeks ago, we were in a noon class, a young lady, it was like her, second class.
Yeah.
And Ari was like, hey, Terry, will you roll with her? And I was like, yeah. And she was scared to death. And she's 5 foot, 100 pounds. And, I'm 240, 235 pounds, 6'1". And then she's like looking at me like, you want me to roll with that guy? And I'm like, I am not going to do a single thing. You're going to work on what you did today. And she left from me and went right to you because you were at that class, Matt. Yeah. And you were like, I want you to get in my close guard. And I was like, yeah, see, like, that's what we cultivate here. Like, teaching you to be better. Now, obviously, we have had many, I'll use Matt's term of chuckleheads that have come in and they're like, I'm not tapping for nothing. It's like, well, you're not going to be here very much longer because you're going to go to sleep a lot.
Right.
Or get hurt.
Or like the higher belts where they're going to learn a lot, we'll just stop rolling with them. They'll avoid them because it's just like, look, this guy's the chucklehead.
Yeah.
He's not learning, and you try to have that hard conversation with them. And sometimes that sticks. But other times there are people and that they just end up not working out.
Right.
Exactly. You made 2 points so like your wife having you go, kudos to her, because I mean, that's one of the big things, especially like when I got promoted to black belt. The biggest thanks that I had was for my wife, because I mean, we're gone all the time. And for them to actually, Karen has done nothing but support this journey. And I mean, you need to have that.
Yeah, exactly.
We have a couple guys, and I'm not going to mention any names, but it's like, their wives actually give them a hard time about going in training, and they need to, so to have that support at home was just, that's amazing. And then, like you said, taking that time and not even just rolling with her, but taking that moment, that 5-minute round to actually go over things that they have no idea. What's a close guard? I have no idea. Okay, here's a close guard. Here's an open guard.
Yep.
So when I came through, the very first thing that they taught us was, how to open a closed guard. And then you go into, there's 5 steps to an armbar. And go through all that stuff and build those basics up. So, and again, like I said, there's you and a few other guys that are kind of doing that. And so, keep doing that, because that's how everybody gets better. Because especially teaching things, because I'm an EMS instructor, I have been forever. Teaching it, you got to break it down so that the dumbest student in class can understand it. And it actually helps you understand the technique a little bit more. So the more you get to teach, I think the better it makes you as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's facts. And as you said earlier, both of you guys, like, Mr. Hindman started East Coast and cultivated that atmosphere. That's what his legacy was going to be. Like, this is the torch I'm going to pass. Like, you guys will teach it this way. You will be this way. And
I mean, there's no choice. This is how you conduct yourself. Right. There's no other options,
which is the way it should
words. I said, he never mixed words either.
No,
if you're doing something wrong, you knew about it right then and there.
Absolutely.
And to build that, I mean, come on, everyone, a million people know him and know who he is and what he stood for and what he did. To build that, that's what you have to do. And it's not a bad thing, because look at where you guys are now. Look at what you've done, Chad. Look at where you're at, Matt. Like, I mean, like, for you, Matt, like, your memories of him, like, what's he mean to you? I know he's gone.
I knew this was coming since we were on the topic.
Yeah, this is always going to be a topic when I have someone that's been around him.
I've listened to the podcast, especially when you have some of our guys on and you hit them with this. So one of the first things that spoke to me about Steve's character was when I first started, MMA Fit was an actual MMA workout. I mean, we had rubber bands on the wall and you're doing resistance shots. You're running with sandbags. Now it's kind of like a functional fitness thing, which is really cool and it's worked out.
Yeah.
But at the time, we had Monday night was gi, Wednesday night was no gi. That was the only jiu-jitsu we had. We did do the open Sunday, Matt.
Yeah.
But Monday was like a small class, and then Wednesday no gi. It was a big class, but it was drawing in a bunch of cage heads at that time. They just wanted to come in and beat the shit out of people. This is what he's doing for a living. And he actually said, you know what? We're not doing that anymore. Monday night and Wednesday night are both gi. I don't want that attitude in my gym. So at the possibility of losing money, he changed the way that he was doing his business because he didn't like the way that it was going. So that right there spoke a lot to me about his character, because it was like he sees this issue and he's willing to possibly financially hurt himself to make that issue go away. You know, so I mean, that was that whole actions speak louder than words kind of thing right off the bat.
That's huge. I mean, most people
really
would never do that. They this day they won't.
I remember that conversation. Me and him having that conversation about making that change. It was a big step.
No, and it spoke volumes. It really did, because it's like, okay, this is where I want to be. You know, because I was still pretty new at that point. And just we live in a world now where, you know, when somebody dies or something happens, everybody's like, oh, he was the greatest person ever, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, he was really one of the just most outstanding people I'd ever met.
This is why I asked this question, because we see it all the time. People make movies about things. It's like, well, they're gone now. Like, why would you wait now? And this is why, because I didn't have the opportunity to meet him. So I love to hear about him, because I see what you guys are. I see how you act and how you carry yourself and how you've treated me and taken me under your wing, taught me things, and all the friends that I've made that have had the chance to meet him. So on this podcast, every time I have someone, and Chad and I have the opportunity to talk to someone from East Coast from the early days, I go, oh, I need to know. Like, I need to know, like, what he mean to you, man, because everyone has the similar things, but he has touched each and every one of you guys a little bit different in certain ways of like how you carry yourself or what you see in life, you know. So I think it's important for people. So go ahead. I do this a lot.
No, he was a very respectful dude. Him and Tiff both are just great human beings. There's not a thing that he wouldn't do for you. I used to kid with him because I thought he camped out at Bueller's, because every time I go into I swear to God. But like, so I do the CPR class for East Coast. I've done it since I've gotten there. I mean, I remember as a brand new white belt, I'm like, hey, I can do your CPR. And they paid me. And then I came into class. It was the night after or so. And Steve came up to me and he gave me a $75 gift certificate to Bistro. And he's like, I want you to take your wife out to dinner because you spent time away from her to come in and help us. You know, and that's the kind of guy he was.
Man,
And it's just, you know, I don't know how to say what he meant to me, but I mean, my life changed completely because of what he started and the things that he taught me.
Nice.
I mean, jiu-jitsu is probably one of the best things I've ever done outside of marrying my wife. It really, it's a life-changing experience. I'm really glad I took the ride on, you know, so, and he started that whole thing. And the whole jiu-jitsu thing, I went in and I started the Muay Thai program. And the Muay Thai program back then was like, I mean, Steve's running it. It's a hard-ass Dutch program, and we're beating the hell out of each other. And then the one night we did ground, and he come over and he's laughing. He goes, buddy, you need to go to jiu-jitsu. So I started running both classes, and here we are, man, 14 years later. Yeah, but no, he was a very sweet, scary man.
Yeah.
But you did not want to get, I've seen him mad maybe 3 times.
Yeah.
It's not pleasant. I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of that, because he was just the sweetest badass that you're ever going to meet.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah. Miss him all the time. And you feel him whenever you walk into that gym. Yeah. And it's because of, you know, Chad, Scarborough, Pete, all the people that grew up underneath him. Yeah. It's still trying to carry on that legacy. I mean, you walk into the damn room and it says, what would Hindman do? You know, there's
yeah.
So, yeah.
That's awesome, man. I love it. It speaks volumes of what East Coast is all about. Like, and Chad and I we've had these conversations and about, being humble and treating people the right way and treating people kindly. And, he always is like, that's what Steve used to show us all the time. That's how he was. And like,
Right.
Keep good people around you, know what you're doing, you know what I mean? Like make good decisions and that kind of stuff. Like, and that's key to anything you do in life, but obviously in a martial art gym, because you're going to have all kinds of people. I mean, come on, we have a melting pot of people. If anyone ever is like, oh, there's only one type of person that goes and actually does jujitsu or any kind of martial art.
Not even close.
You have no idea anything about martial arts because that's zero. It's from
lawyers to rappers to, I mean, you name it. We got them all.
Name it.
All of it.
Biggest melting pot of all, which for me, it's not that I was naive to it because I didn't know. After being there for a while, I was like, oh, wow, there's like all kinds of people here. Like there's a cop or a lawyer. Oh, that guy, he's had some rough road. He's made some bad decisions. We've had a past. Yeah, it's like we've had all those people, and then I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. Like I fit in here perfectly. Like this is exactly where I need to be.
And it is, and there's no. I mean, you hit the mats. There's no politics. There's no nothing. No. Everybody's there. It's the same language. We're all speaking it.
Right.
And you're there to learn. You're there to get crushed, and you're there to have fun.
Yeah. For sure.
That's what it boils down to. And we've really got it's like being at work. Our shift's the best shift, and every gym.
Sure, right.
Like, our gym's the best gym. I've cross-trained a bunch, and I love the attitude that we have at our gym, and just what we put into it. And, just everybody comes in and it's literally everybody gets everybody else better. That's the whole idea. There's no one guy there just crushing people to try to make himself better, and that's it.
Sure.
It's that whole iron sharpens iron thing. It really is. Everybody's there to help each other out.
Yeah. And to think, like you said, like when you started, it was 3 times a week if you count open mat. When I was started, it was 1 time a week. Now we have 12, 13 classes a week. Like,
there's not a day there's no jiu-jitsu happening.
Yeah.
Even like Buck and them are running classes Friday morning.
Right.
So there's not literally a day, because you got this comp class on Saturday. You can't find more jiu-jitsu anywhere.
You can't. You really can't. We're adding another class starting this week. We're doing that intro to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
I am so excited about that. I'm going to be there for the first one.
I was going to say, whenever you can come and you can assist me or help or whatever we're doing. You know what I mean?
I'm so excited about that, because that's one of the things that, like fundamentals night started out kind of that course. Starting now. And then it kind of morphed into just a jiu-jitsu night with the white belts. And I think this one will kind of help people, because we're doing, okay, today's a X pass, and they're like, what the hell's, you get some of the brand new white belts that are just lost. So I think this will be really nice.
Yeah, we can really break it down a lot more and be like, this is closed guard, and give those steps. And it should be a smaller class because of the time of day. So I think that'll help too.
Right.
It'll help with that. Yeah. It'll help with that more personal.
And it's, I've told a lot of the guys when they they got excited, like, oh, another class. I'm like, listen, this isn't just
we're not rolling.
We're not rolling. Like, this is 45 minutes of drilling and teaching.
Yeah.
Is what I want. If we have a little time at the end, you know what I mean? We have enough classes to where you can get your rolls in, you know?
Right. Yeah, I'm stoked about that, because that's one of the things I think with new people we need to kind of focus on. And I think it's awesome that we're doing that now. So I'm super excited for that class.
Yeah, I'm going to try to actually put together some type of curriculum, I think.
Yeah.
To where it's, 4 weeks of this.
And and I remember back, not that it matters, but when I first started, we did tripod sweep, very first class. That was my very first class. But we did that for like weeks. Like it was just tripod sweeping, like tripod sweeping coming up. And then we went into like X pass.
Right.
And, and I was like, oh yeah, like that was really cool. Now, fortunately, I can retain information pretty well, and that's okay. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I have a different brain. I knew that was coming. As I went into it, I was like, well, here it comes.
He's special.
Yes, I am special.
Yes.
That's very special. Rain Man special, sort of.
I want to burn baby.
But like I thought about that and think about that at times, because some people will be like, well, how do I get better at that? I'm like, well, just do reps, man. Like go to someone, if you're going to roll, like ask them, hey, can I just do reps? Like let me, and I'll do that. Hey, what are you doing tonight? What are you learning? What are you working on? Oh, let me get in that position and I'll give you good resistance. And I want you to just keep working that same move that we just did or whatever. And I will do that. And I will sacrifice my roles to do that because I go, listen, man, if I'm going to get better as time just keeps going and I'm comfortable with that, you're not going to be able to get any better. And then I can sit here and destroy you for 5 minutes and then you're going to be bummed out. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't want that to happen.
And that's the suckiest part of jiu-jitsu. Doing reps and drilling suck.
No one wants to do it. Right.
Nobody wants to do it. Now that, we've tied the speech in class, like Pete and I, Matt, Brad, maybe a little more. We're not drill sergeants though. We're just going to yell at you for not doing it. But it is frustrating when you look around and it's like
people are sitting around.
Well, yeah. And it's mainly the white belts. It's like, look who's drilling. It's the blue belts. It's the purple belts. It's the guys that have been here and gotten better.
Sure.
So that's just something you got to I guess, baby step in because it's not fun.
No, but it does make you more efficient.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Build that muscle.
And that's the one thing everybody's got to understand is it's like, whenever I'm teaching the white belts, the arm bar, it's the 5 steps. You got to cross the body, close the door, do all that stuff. Do every 5. I want you to say it while you're doing it because building that basic stuff, because then it's like, and then I'll show them, okay, I can hit an arm bar from the back. I can hit an arm bar. It's all the same arm bar, but if you have really bad basics and that foundation isn't there, you're going to suck wherever you're at.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just drilling that. You ask any of my guys from the fire department that train with us, just walk up to them, ask them, how many parts to an arm bar are there? And they're going to tell you there's 5. Constantly, I drill that into them all the time.
Sure.
And that's the one nice thing is being able to roll with those guys at work.
That does help a ton. Yeah. You're kind of on. Yeah. I mean, you're on all the time, basically, in the sense of it. I mean, you're like on call, kind of like, hey,
we're there 24 on, 48 off.
There you go.
So I mean, it's basically like being under house arrest, but you're not allowed to leave until something's on fire or somebody's hurt.
Right.
So we kind of take like Alec Williamson and Mike Moore also. It was like a lot of one-on-one work in that mat room, and getting them to where they are because Alec is a little guy. Mm-hmm. But one of my favorite moments was we had a guy that used to train that doesn't train anymore, and him and Alec were rolling. And this guy probably outweighs Alec by 40 pounds, and he's just tooling him up, because he's constantly working at it.
Yeah.
He's getting better.
Yeah. Consistency.
So it's just a good thing to have.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Hey, why fireman? You've been 30 years, man. That's a long time. My grandfather, he's a mentor to me, or he was a mentor to me, but he was a fireman for 25 years for 4 in Plain Township.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I've always he has his captain's hat. He was a captain, like his helmet and all that. My aunt has it now, but there's always going to be a fight over who's getting that helmet.
Right.
Once she goes,
if you want one, I got 3 of them here. So when I was in high school, I was either going to be a cop or a fireman. At the time, I was kind of focusing on cops.
Okay, nice.
And the story here, my uncle, because when I did Taekwondo as a kid, my uncle was a black belt Taekwondo.
Okay.
So we went to his school, and one of the cops came in the one night, and he says, hey, look, a bunch of our cops are getting their ass kicked. We were actually looking to hire some black belts. Would you guys be interested in being a Stark County deputy sheriff? So they hired him. And he did that job for, I think, 3 or 4 years. And I was telling him, I'm going to become a cop. Mind you, this is an 88. Okay. He's saying, do not become a cop. Go be a fireman. Everybody hates cops and there's too much red tape. And this is an 88.
Wow.
I mean, now you look at it now and it's just, so I think I made the right choice. I got out of school and when initially I became I started an apprenticeship as a machinist. Because it's okay, I'm going to do this, but if I don't make it, I want something to fall back on.
Yeah.
So I got my journeymanship. Got hired on part-time at Green in '92. Ended up getting my EMT and my firefighter, and then I went to school to become a paramedic. And then once I got my paramedic, I think it was 2 months later, I got hired full-time at Green. Wow. And just hit the ground running. Nice. I can tell you, I remember my very first call that I've ever been on as an EMT. I love the job. It's like anything else. If you go to work and you work with a bunch of idiots that just suck the energy out of you, it's going to suck.
Definitely.
My crew is what makes the job fun. It really is.
Sure.
And so I'm our union president also. When we're on probation, you're on probation for a year. You're not in the union. You can't get it onto the union board or anything. As soon as I came off probation, I became an executive board member as our secretary, worked my way up to president. When I first got hired full time, we were 4 people per shift with 1 station. And through negotiations and all the work that we put in over the last 17 years, or the last 24 years, we have 17 people on shift now out of 3 stations.
Wow.
So I was
That's
actually,
awesome.
I got to help grow the City of Green Fire Department to what it is today. And just to see, like, from where I started to where it is now, it's amazing. And the job has just gotten better and better. And I had a blast at it. And it's one of those things as a firefighter, if you get bored, it's because you're lazy.
Sure.
There are so many teams you can be on. I was a dive specialist for 20 years, technical rescue specialist. I've been on the SWAT team for 17 years as a tactical medic with them. So there's just a bunch of different things that you can do in the fire department because, the cops used to do extrication back in the day. And then they realized they don't have the tools for it. So it became the firefighter's job. And it seems like everything the cops didn't want to do, we ended up getting stuck with it.
Offloaded
now
it.
we're doing hazmat, rope rescue, and dive rescue, and all of that stuff. But as long as you want to learn, that job is nothing but amazing.
Yeah. And you know what, the way you explain it, Matt, of what you've seen happen over 17 years is no different than what we've done at East Coast. You've created an environment and people that, want to be around you and do the job.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing, right?
It really is. It really, and actually, as I was explaining it, I was kind of putting those two together.
Yeah. Same thing.
So I was like, like you can tell that you've been
very
around
similar
great people to emulate that. You're a great person, obviously, to be around. But like, yeah, like at your Chad, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like,
yeah,
wait, like this is exactly the same thing. Like that culture, which it can be taught. That type of culture thinking can be taught to people if they're willing to open their mind and listen to it and accept it and own it. You know what I mean? And which is great because we need more people like that, like yourself, Matt, like to be able to change that, and like Chad being able to, obviously starting with Mr. Hindman and continuing that legacy into us, and then getting us to go speak that way to other people or anything that we're involved in to try to do that, even if we're at the smallest point in anything you're doing. Speak that way. Like this is for everyone out there listening, like everything that you guys are hearing, like this is important, man. Like if your job is awful, then maybe you need to change the way you're speaking about things or thinking about things, or go get into a good jiu-jitsu gym. If you're not
trained, boils down to mentors. If you have a good mentor or you are a good mentor, like Hindman was a great mentor. I had great mentors throughout the fire department. They kind of molded me into where I'm at. The officer that I am, I either learned from watching really good ones or really bad ones and figuring out what not to do.
Yeah.
So it really does. If you have decent mentors, I mean, you look at Shannon White and all the people that have come out of our gym that were mentored underneath Hindman. I mean, they left our gym, but they still have that same mentality.
Yeah.
He instilled on them, so that speaks volumes as well. Just, you got to either be a good mentor or have a good mentor.
Yeah.
I think that makes a huge difference.
That's huge. Definitely. How much longer are you going to, not do jiu-jitsu? I'm not asking you that because you're never coming off the mat. How long are you going to do the fireman thing?
I have a drop dead date of 7 years.
Cool.
So right now I'm officially retired. We have a thing called deferred retirement option plan where I retired last May. I continue working and my pension check goes into an account. Nice. And I have to do that for at least 5 years to a maximum of 8.
Okay.
So my drop dead date, I would have to be done by 7, and that'll put me out at 59 years old.
Nice.
Which the job that we do, that's probably about time to leave. That's why firefighters, you're eligible for pension at 25 years. Because
because of what you have to put yourself through.
And fighting fires is just it's like a triathlon. I mean,
I was going to ask you,
in the work that you're doing.
I can't imagine.
Has it ever gotten better with the technology and equipment, or is it always pretty much been the same since day one for you? Like,
there are some advances with equipment, and one of the big advances that we made is because back in the day it was like you got to get in the house and you got to take the heat or you're a sissy, that kind of shit. Now they've proven we do a thing called transitional attack where you hit it they call it hard from the yard, but you hit it from outside to knock it down. That does a couple of things. It makes it a little bit easier for you when you go in, but it also makes the environment a little bit more, I guess, better for who's ever trapped inside. because you're
Okay.
feeling that heat, you're taking away some of the smoke, you're kind of giving them a fighting chance. That's been one of the big advances that they made. And it really wasn't even a technological or a piece of equipment. It was just a change in mindset because the people who actually do firefighting, like studies on buildings and stuff, figured out back in the day, it was like, well, you're pushing the heat through the house. They found out that that's not true. What's made it easier is going into a fire with 4 people and getting your ass kicked as opposed to showing up with 17 people. That has definitely made it easier.
More people
we now have
now.
that's like my job that I just got promoted to as captain. We have a brand new tower truck. We've never done this before. I'm the captain. Myself, Mike Moore, and Keith Geiger just got promoted to it. He's the captain of a tower truck. So we are just in charge of that truck, and we go on every fire in the city.
Oh, wow.
Which is extremely exciting because it's kind of like we get to pave the way as to how this works in the future for people coming up. So I'm super excited about that.
I'm going to ask you a question and you can say, I don't want to answer that question.
Okay.
Is there a fire that sticks out in your life that you'll never forget?
Yeah, the one is actually, so we do what's called mutual aid. We run with Coventry Fire, Springfield, New Franklin, everybody around us, because fire departments aren't staffed to actually have the people that they need. And like right now, even when we give a test, we usually get like 100 and some people. We just gave a test the 30th, and I think we got 43 people.
Wow.
So you're not even getting people coming out for the job, let alone working. So we went to a mutual aid fire, and it was the reason I remember it is because we were in searching for the woman, and she was so badly burned that she just blended in with the environment. It took until about an hour after the fire was out until we physically found where she was.
Oh, man.
Just because of the burn injuries, and she literally blended in with everything. And then I think the reason I remember that is because, you think about it, it's like, oh, I'm going to go in and find people, and you've really got to look. You've really got to pay attention.
Sure.
It's almost as easy as just something looks out of place over there. I need to check that more.
Yeah.
Just things like that to kind of help you with other fires. But I mean, there's, we've had quite a bit. We had Linnaeus Candy Factory burned down, and it was me, a captain, and our engineer showed up to this thing, and it's just fully involved. It's fun. We enjoy doing our job. It sucks that we got to do it.
Sure.
When you show up, even if the entire house isn't on fire, you pretty much lose everything in there from smoke damage and everything like that. And you're rolling into it knowing that these people just lost everything, but yet you're excited to be there because we do enjoy doing that part of
right.
The job.
Sure. Sure. Right.
Take. Next one. Go ahead.
A lot of people don't like to talk about things, and I never want to. My grandfather, obviously, because we were super close, he always told me a lot of stories. My father-in-law was a 2-time Vietnam vet. He did 2 tours, and he talks about a lot of things that he's seen. And so I never pry on those type of questions. I just like to give them the option first. So that's how
people forget how badass those guys in Vietnam were.
Like,
you just
it's a little different.
You see now wearing their hats, they're little old guys and stuff, but they were badasses. The stuff that they had to put up with and do. Yeah, those guys they don't make them like that anymore.
Yeah.
Really
my father-in-law is like, I'll never forget. He was in the Navy, and they got drafted. Like, they went down the line. They're from a very small town in Ohio. There's stories about it. My wife is from there. It was the most drafted. They lost the most people, and they went down the line. They're like Army, Navy, this, like, all the way down, like Army, Navy, Marines, Army, Navy, like that's what they did. And one brother got killed. His other brother went to the Air Force, Army, Navy, Air Force. His other brother went to the Air Force, and he went to the Navy. My son is enamored with him right now because he's like, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to go to the military. He's 15 years old now. That's all he talks about, which I'm trying to convince him to come train at the gym. Because I can't I can't
start now.
Come train. I'm like, dude, you got to come now with me, and no one will hurt you. And he's like, no, I'm not coming. I'm like, oh, killing me, kid. but Frank is a little old guy, and he said when he got off the boat, literally they're like, Griffey, down there, get your papers, you're good. He goes, I went down there, turned, and they're like, all right, you're going back in. Like, all right, fine. He signed right back up and went right back in for another tour or whatever,
Tour.
and he just did it. And he's an awesome man. Doesn't talk much. He's very quiet, but him and I have had some deep conversations about things that he's seen, even being, in there and stuff. And we do take for granted sometimes, like not a lot of people, but like those guys, they might look like nothing, but they went through hell, man. I mean, they seen things that people don't ever see or will never see. That's why I respect you to say, hey, like what's the worst thing you ever seen, or what's the bad fire, because you don't want to talk about. I don't see that happen to anybody. You know what I mean? I don't see anyone lose. Like I devastate for those people. Like, oh, their house burnt down, smoke damage. Like I see people post on social media, hey, we need help. I'm like, oh man, like that's awful, dude. Like I don't even know what to say. Like I just pray for them. I don't know what to do, because it's an awful situation.
Well, and our people, and mostly around Ohio, we're like dual. So we're firefighter paramedics. Everybody at Green Fire, including our fire chief, is a paramedic.
Is that a requirement that they made like throughout your time being there?
So just like even just each city's different. It depends on how they want to set it up. Like you can get hired on Akron Fire straight off the street, and they'll train you.
Oh wow. Okay.
It just depends on where you want to get hired. There are a couple areas like Cleveland. Cleveland just does fire. Now there's a Cleveland EMS that's kind of separate but tied into Cleveland Fire that does the EMS. So if you get into bigger cities, you can do just fire. Like Akron, I think it's 10 years now. You got to be a medic for 10 years, then you can drop your card and just ride the truck.
Okay.
Oh, so, wow.
I mean, we get to see just that's the problem with it is it's a certain type of person to do this job. You talk to any fireman, fire person, but they're very morbid. They got a really shitty sense of humor, because that's kind of how we deal with things, is kidding around with stuff. And it seems like the worse the calls are, the more we're joking around and stuff like that. Because we've lost a couple guys to alcohol, just because of some of the stuff that they've seen.
Sure.
We've had a couple in the community had just recently committed suicide. Just from things that they see on the job and just not being able to, I guess, deal with it a healthy way. Yeah.
Sure.
That's rough.
So, but it's you'll notice. I mean, my wife always says it all the time. Karen will say, "I just had a Craddock moment," because I'll say shit and not even realize I said it until after the fact, just because we got a quick, shitty sense of humor. Joke around about things that probably shouldn't. But
but I mean, that also makes you closer too, and it makes you closer to the guys that you're around, because those are going to be the guys and gals. They're going to be the ones that are right beside you all the time in those.
You feed off of each other,
right? Yeah. And if that's what it takes sometimes in order to get through what you're doing and to deal, that's almost like your therapy. For instance, and I was going to ask you this, Matt, how much has jiu-jitsu helped you with situations like that?
Oh, jiu-jitsu. So I'm a big mountain climber also.
You are, that's right. Because
the one thing I like about jiu-jitsu, it's the same. Like when I'm climbing or I'm in jiu-jitsu, that is all I'm thinking about. I don't care what's going on in the world, in my life, at work, none of that shit. When I'm rolling, that is all I'm thinking about. Same with climbing. I'm thinking about the next move. I'm thinking about my gear placement. Jiu-jitsu, I'm thinking about my next move.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about that stuff. And it's just, fighting another human being is one of the greatest stress reliefs you're ever going to have. And my Karen will say every now and then, like if I miss jiu-jitsu for a week because I was doing something or work or whatever, she'll actually say, you should probably go to jiu-jitsu. You're getting kind of pissy. And she realizes that that's an outlet also, and it's an extremely healthy one.
I can relate.
That's right. I mean, it just
it's been the last several months for me,
right?
Because I'm only getting in the gym like once a month right now because of everything I'm doing.
Everything's all waz now, but and it's the other thing too is it's not even just the physicality of it; it's just being around a group of like-minded people.
That's it.
And spending 2 hours with them, and even just bullshitting or whatever on and off the mat. It just. That whole little family environment kind of thing really helps out as well.
Yeah. I've said it many times. A lot of my favorite parts of jiu-jitsu is after class or on a way to a tournament. I mean, Matt knows how long, when Mr. Hindman was around, how long did we stay after and talk with him?
I was going to say that. How many times have we sat out in that goddamn parking lot?
Till 11 o'clock.
I hear these stories.
2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. listening to stories we'd already heard, but you wanted him to tell it to somebody else, you know, like all those stories. So yeah, I mean, that's the best part, is that like-minded people and just having a good time and talking.
100%.
I just had this conversation with Dan and Jay Stu a couple weeks ago. I was in finally Tuesday night. I was tired. I didn't want to come to the gym. I was kind of just like, I'm here, I'm tired. I'd rather be home sleeping. Just felt empty. Like, and I was like, this is it. Like, I can't do this anymore. This is my last night. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. I can't do it. I'm just stressed out and I'm not having fun and I'm doing all this other stuff. And then Jay Stu came over and sat. I trained, rolled once, sat there. He came over. And then afterwards I like hugged him and was like, thanks, man. Like, I needed energy from people that I care about. Like, I needed those people around me. And I knew it because I'm an introvert by nature, but I need my people. And I went home and
a lot of us are like that.
She was like, you look so much happier. And I was like, I just realized something about myself. I'm 46 years old. And I was like, I'm an introvert, but I need energy from people that I know care about me. And if I wouldn't have went that night, I might have quit. I might have just told Chad, like, I'm done. And he probably wouldn't have let me, but but I needed that energy and it helped like me to get through. And I was like, all right, just keep working, keep doing what you're doing. And I never thought about it up until that time of like what that part of jiu-jitsu does for me. You know what I mean? Like, it's therapy.
Like, you're blue belt, everybody's expecting you to leave.
Right, exactly. So it was already like, that's the thing. All the time I tell myself, I'm like, well, everyone's expecting you to leave anyway. I was like, this is awful. Like, you're literally falling into the hole that you get joked about all the time. I was like, this is awful. And that's why that night I was like, forget it. You might as well just done. It's already done. It's already been written. Just walk away.
That's the other thing I like about it is because like my wife, she likes to work out in the morning and she's like, how the hell do you go at 7:30 at night and do that? And when you get on the mat, you got to show up, or else you're going to get your ass beat. So they kind of force you to actually do the work and put in what you need to put in. Yep. And some of those guys will kind of check your bullshit and get you right in the head again.
Right.
And keep rolling. So yeah, I mean, Jay and Dan, those are two just quality individuals as well that we got there. So
absolutely.
Yeah. And being around you guys, like having those conversations, like Chad said, like that's what I need. Like, I just needed to like talk, I think, to someone that it was whatever reason, I just needed to talk. You know what I mean? Like, get it out. Like, it wasn't, and there was like nothing like about me. It was just like talking to like this, like having a podcast, having a conversation. That's what it was. And it was like, when I walked away, I was like, wow, I feel great. Like, I only rolled one time tonight and trained it. It was actually a hard roll, but I feel great. Like,
and the jiu-jitsu is obviously the awesome part, what brings us back. But almost all these conversations we've had all comes back to that atmosphere that you needed. Right. And the people that you needed. Jiu-jitsu is, I try to get people in. Like, I always tell people, like, jiu-jitsu is the last thing I want people to know we're good at. I want you to feel comfortable when you come in and then be like, oh, we got some good jiu-jitsu too. We have 4 black belts. Good Lord.
Right.
Who would have thought that?
Yeah, that's I'm still trying to feel that out.
Yeah.
Because it's like that. Where do I go on the mat? When that whole walking around and kind of help and teach.
Yeah.
Oh God, it's just so foreign right now. But I'm starting to get the hang of that more. It's like I need to be there. As opposed to, like the first night I showed up after black belt, I went to line up and you're like, what are you doing? Get out of here.
Yeah.
You're like, you're out of here. In front.
I don't know where to go. This is
you completely messed up my entire world by doing this. Like, thank you so much.
No, that was amazing. I was glad that me and Scarborough both got it that day. And I was wondering who I had to go down on to get on this podcast before Scarborough, and it was Terry. But so I got him there too. So yeah, no, Brad's one of my favorite people there. He's a good chug lad.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We couldn't have a better upper belt crew. I mean, look, I'm a blue belt, as we said, but I would not ask for better people than what I have surrounded around me in that gym right now that keep me going, that keep me on my toes, teach me, you know what I mean? So, the atmosphere is there. It's all positive.
All positive.
Yeah. Let me destroy you and then go, this is what I did.
Yeah.
We kind of mess with you a little bit, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, we were doing line drills. That's what it was. And you came out and like it was, you know, what do you want? Sleeve, collar, what? And I took sleeve and you put both your hands on my knees, shoved them between your legs and sat on me. And I was like, it was like 2 seconds. And I'm like, crud. And then he was like, you laughed and you're like, well, and I was like, dang it. And it was like, you like patted me on the back as I went off. You're like, hey, you fine. You know what I mean? And I knew. I was like, it's all right, man. Like, just get back in line and let's keep going. Like, just keep working, keep doing things. And I'm okay with that. Like,
I love line drills. I was like Graham will try to run that damn lasso guard. And every time he does, I heel hook him. I was like, oh, you're gonna give me it?
it's
Okay.
just standing right there.
I finally got him to stop running it on me.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm trying to, so there's a tournament July 22nd in Pittsburgh. There's a Naga tournament that some guys want to do, and Jay might actually do it.
Oh, nice. Let's work on that.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I
kind of, he's like, man, you're going to do that to me? I'm like, I'm not saying you have to. I'm the last person that is ever going to make anybody compete.
Dude, he's all in.
Yeah.
You know, he got into it and he was really nervous at the beginning. And now he's just like a student of jiu-jitsu. I mean,
he is, man.
Florida with Stinson and then when they competed.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, all right, man, good. Yeah, he's all about it because he was a big Muay Thai guy back in the day.
Yeah.
And now he is all about jiu-jitsu.
And you know, the best part is too, is he listened to us too. It's like, hey, Jay, you're a big guy. You can probably crush some people, but let's learn a guard. Right. And now you have the dude his size pulling guard. That's a scary thing.
Yeah, and he's pretty good at it too.
He's really
he's really good at it.
Yeah, he fell in love with that lasso, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the coolest part. Like when he got the East Coast tattoo, but he has a lasso around it, and I was like, oh, it's perfect. Like when I saw the picture, I was like, well, duh. If no one knows who that is, then you don't know who Jay is. Right. or you've never trained with him, because that's what
one of the biggest things I love about this sport is, you know, you got Gumby over there that can, you know, every time he's got like another hook that comes out of nowhere.
Insane.
So what he does may not work for me, and what I do may not work for you. So you get to find your own journey as to, it's like, okay, they're teaching me this, but how can I apply it to how it works for me and my mechanics?
Yeah.
And by the end of it, it's like everybody's basically got their own style of jiu-jitsu when you're done, because you actually get to figure out what really works for you and start running that, like Jay with the lasso guard.
Yeah.
You know, he started messing with that, found out that it worked for him, and he's doing it really well now. And you see that throughout the gym, just different people trying different things to kind of figure out where their jiu-jitsu is.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the best things I love about East Coast the most, and how I've tried to put things out there for people. You go to some gyms, you watch a lot of competition stuff, and a lot of gyms teach the same thing, and they all look the same in a way, right?
Right.
Where if I find, like when Dan Candry started liking footlocks, I sent him so many footlock videos on YouTube for him to watch.
So it's your fault.
It's my fault. But you know, Jay Stu started running baseball chokes. I'm like, here's Jay, here's some videos I found.
Right.
So I just try to put it out there as like, come up with your own thing, man.
Yep. Well, that's why I like every now and then, you know, because we're pretty structured, but every now and then you and I will sit down and you're just like, hey, what do you guys want to work on today?
Yeah. And then they go,
there's always dribble piping up. But, I like that, because you get some people, it's just like, man, I am trying this new guard, or I'm trying this, and I cannot figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, so I like that kind of atmosphere about this as well, too. You know, being able to help these guys experiment with where they need to go.
Yep.
That does make it super awesome and super sweet, because it's like, if you know, or you see us do something, you're like, here, like, and you show us, like, you literally take us under your wing, you know, and go, here's how you want to do that, or here's a good way to do that. You know what I mean? Yep. And it's like, and it'll click. Like for me, it's been like, oh, duh. Like you showed me like something simple in the beginning, like something a while ago, still a white belt, like 2 or 3 stripe. And it was like a side control, and then, it was mounting, and I don't like mount. And you're like, I take them and like kind of roll that, like kind of up, just lift yourself up on mount and roll them almost to like an S mount. And I was like, this is the dumbest thing in the world. Like, Terry, why didn't you know this? And Matt was like, this is all I do. And I was like, oh yeah, I have really good hand strength and ability to turn somebody, like, no problem. Like, okay. I was like, just start doing that.
There are so many things from that tech mount. That's actually, we do the tech mount with a gift wrap, and that's how we have cops controlling people on the ground.
Okay.
I've used it at work on psych patients so that we can give them ketamine. And I mean, the last one I had, he was probably 250. He was a bodybuilder, steroids and cocaine overdose.
Oh,
And I held him by myself for about 10 minutes in that tech mount. It's a very strong, and if you hate mount, because everybody knows how to escape mount, and you always end up in some stupid position, it's just such an easy transition.
Sure.
it is.
And it's just playing with the guys that have been there for a while. We've done that thing wrong a couple thousand times.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we figured out how to do it right. So it's like that's just all part of, giving back, teaching, showing people the right way to do things and trying to get things to click with people so that they understand it a little bit better.
For
But
sure.
I hate mount. I have always hated mount. So it's
I don't like it either.
What can I do from here? Oh, let's go to tech mount.
I'm just no good at it. That, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, it's like, oh, we're going to go to this and go to a mount position. I'll definitely do it. Like, I'm always all in on whatever technique it'll be. Right. I never want to discount anything that I'm doing, but I will go, I'm not good at this, man. Like, I'm not comfortable here. Like, I feel vulnerable and I'm on top and I'm heavy. Well, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I still feel vulnerable here. Like, I need to figure out something. And I feel like I'm in more control because my legs are strong. So getting them in that tech mount, it's like, ooh, yeah, I can squeeze my legs a little bit tight together. Like, this is where single leg X, like, this is where I'm at now. Like, oh, this is really good for you. Then start doing this. Like, Tim taught it and Chad has taught it before. And I'm going, I love it now. Like, I will constantly try to get there. I get hosed a lot because I'll get mounted because I won't get my feet on the right spot and they're just
you
like,
play with it.
Yeah. And that's what I've been doing. Like, I've just been like, ooh, I really like this, getting a collar and like going back and forth and sweeping them. And I'm like, oh, this is maybe where my jujitsu's at. Like, this is the move for me.
And
like,
you're going to have to keep doing that and keep screwing it up and fixing your screw ups. And then finally get to that point where you kind of dial it in pretty good. And then the greatest part about jujitsu is you're going to get it dialed in. Then you're going to roll with that one guy that just smashes past it and it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Right,
so,
exactly. Right.
And then you got guys that are probably going to be listening to this going, you guys are idiots. I love mount, So
for sure. Yeah.
It depends on your jujitsu. It really does. And what you like to do.
Well, I think Logan, he's one of the tightest mounts that like when he's in mount, like you're like, is this every bit of him? Like, it's like, oh my gosh. And he slowly inches up to you making a mistake by reaching your arm out. And then he arm bars you and he doesn't even move hardly. Like he's so tight and he just slides off to the arm and he goes back and you're like, what the heck, man? Like, it's the tightest that it's been, you know what I mean? And he's super good at it. And you have
I call him D'Artagnan because of the haircut that he's got. But that's the other cool thing about this is it's just like the friends that you make doing this, because like the OGs, we were the old guy crew. Me, Mueller, and Turnip. And then we put CJ into it. We gave him the honorary old guy title. But I literally got to watch Logan grow up.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just a youngster, like right?
9 when I started. So getting to watch him grow up has been pretty cool. And that kid he gives me fits. He's a problem.
He's
really good on the mats.
The kid's a sponge. Even he's what 23 years old now. I think
20. I think he's turned 24. But either way,
he's a sponge, man. The kid's a sponge. He's good.
He's a very good instructor too.
He's a very good instructor. Yeah.
And I'll go back to that again. I think that makes his jiu-jitsu better because he's down to understand it.
You're constantly doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was the other thing that really amazed me when I first started East Coast was watching how you guys herded the cats, those children on the mat. These little tricycle motors, and these guys have them lined up and super respectful. And it was just watching how you guys were able to reach those kids and get them to behave the way that they did said a lot about East Coast when I first started too. I'm still amazed by that, watching the kids keeping their attention and getting them in line and
for sure.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, we got you for over an hour, man. We took an hour and 50 minutes of your life that we are so glad that we've took because it was a blessing and an honor, man.
Well, like I said, man, I was honored to be asked to do it and do it again if you guys want it.
I have a question real quick. I have one quick question. Do you have a bucket list climb? Nah, man, that's a lot of thought process. There must be a lot in that bucket.
Probably,
I just like Yosemite. Have you climbed the Yosemite? Have you did Huffdome?
No. Most of my stuff's been on the East Coast. I haven't done any really big stuff. I would probably say Moonlight Buttress on Mount Zion out in Utah.
Okay, out in Utah. Yep.
It's a mix of traditional and aid climbing.
Nice.
So if it was on a bucket list, only because I was supposed to do it 15 years ago and never got out there to do it.
Okay.
So probably
Nice.
that. Yeah, my
Very
bucket.
Cool.
Very cool. And I'm sure you know who Alex Hanold is.
Yes,
From
yes,
Free
I've
Zone.
seen
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
All those guys are insane.
Yeah.
They're
Like
all
it
insane.
was years ago. I seen climbing, that type of climbing, and it was an inspiration to me to see if I could do fingertip pull-ups. That was one of my big things.
Yeah.
Like, and I spent forever to do it because I was like, can it be done with a bigger person? And I was able to do it. It took me a long time, but now
It's just
like,
strength training.
Yeah, that's just strength
Yeah.
training. Like
You know,
different
it's like
types.
your beginning climbers, they're always talking about how tired their arms are when they're done because they're all burnt out. And it's really, it's technique.
Every white belt jiu-jitsu person out there.
Yeah, exactly right.
Chad.
Yeah, no, those
Why
guys.
do my arms hurt so
climb,
bad? Well, you're holding on too tight.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
That was me in the
Fingers hurt,
beginning.
yeah.
I was like, I can't move my forearms. He's like, you're holding on too tight. I was like, my grip strength's really good. Doesn't matter.
No, I appreciate the time, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
sure,
Thank
brother.
you, Matt.
All right,
Thank
dude.
you.
Yep.
I'll probably see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yep. Sounds
All right.
good.
All right,
All
my
right,
man.
buddy.
We'll talk to you. All right.
Later.
See you.
Thanks.